Yo, what is going on, guys? Finally, that time of the year once again. You already know what it is. You got a tier list for BT14 Blast Ace. Now, this is a really fun set, and I think a lot of people, myself maybe included, have been a little bit tired of the set 13 format just because it's been going on for so long, man. Bandai, if you're listening to this, I'm sure there's a lot of logistical decisions behind that, but please, for the love of God, like, I don't need a format that's like 3 or 4 months long. We've had BT13 since July. So anyways, if you're excited for set 14, or if you don't even know what's in it, well, you've come to the right place. We're going to kind of talk about all the decks, how good they are, and yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below as always. So we got a couple of tiers here, 1.5, tier 2, Rogue, Dog Water is just complete trash. So let's start by talking about Alphamon. So Alphamon was one of the decks that got support in set 13. Really solid stuff. They basically solved their issue because of having like a limited Dorograde, because we got a Dorograde that's arguably even better in some ways, just aside from the sec attack. So the decks become really consistent. Cool boy, all your core pieces are still at 4, or you can Rewinding Time, still a crazy card. So and obviously it has a really strong matchup against Shine, which is one of the best decks in the format. But we really haven't seen it been doing too much in set 13. So at set 14, I don't really think much changes. I'm going to probably put Alphamon in the, maybe like the low 1.5-ish. Like, it's pretty solid into most decks, but I think just a little bit too slow for the really powerful decks. Like Melga or Shine, or even if you compare to more tier 2 decks like Blue Flare and Beelzemon, like, it's not really doing too much. But so honestly, let's go ahead and put it in high tier 2. I don't think Alphamon's too strong right now. Now in BT14 we do get Yellow Vaccine, Seraphimon, Magnangemon Ace, as well as Secret Angemon. And then not only that, but of course we got the crazy new Patamon, which a lot of people are honestly wanting to get hit on the ban list, which I don't even blame them for that, because that card's pretty crazy. But I think Yellow Vaccine is really strong. Not only the fact that you can heal pretty efficiently, you've got access to historically strong yellow cards like TK, powerful option cards like Wyvern's Breath, Lunkiata Stacto. So I honestly think that Yellow Vaccine has the potential to be tier 1. Now, am I going to put it as one of the strongest decks in the format, just going based off of JP's results? I'm not sure I can put it in tier 1, but let's put it in high tier 1.5. I think it definitely has the capacity to top a regional, but is it going to be one of the most dominating decks? I don't think so. So we've got Hunters here, a really strong deck ever since BT12, still powerful in set 13 as well as 14. Arrestorgemon is still a really crazy card, being able to tuck your opponent's Digimon, still really strong, very efficient deck, very consistent. So yeah, I'm going to probably have to put this in 1.5 as well. Nothing too crazy here. Hunters is a pretty established deck. Quartzmon is still a hell of a card. There's not too many decks that can really deal with Quartzmon too efficiently, so I'm going to still put this up there. I suppose it's supposed to be like Bagra Army. I'm not even going to discuss this, guys. Like, this card is a literal like $1 secret rare, if that tells you anything. Yeah, sorry to all you purple cobras out there. But speaking of purple, we got a couple different purple decks that are actually pretty solid. So what I would say as far as Beelzemon goes, they've got their hit on the ban list, which is the EX2 Impmon. Definitely slows the deck down, but it's still been performing relatively well, and I still think in BT14 that holds to be true. I don't think this deck really loses anything, but it doesn't really gain anything either. I honestly think the set 14 meta, there's a couple of like really powerful decks that are included, but I don't think anything really drastically changes as far as the decks that are tier 1.5 and tier 2-ish. So I'm going to go ahead and put Beelzemon also in that 1.5 category. Just because it is still a really strong aggressive strategy. Same thing with Belphamon, not really much to say here. This deck is already pretty solved as well. You've got your Rage mode, you've got your Sleep mode that makes your stack unaffected. Astamon is still a really strong card, so I can still definitely see the potential for this card to be good into something like Lugamon, being able to wipe their board of level 5s and lowers, being able to stall out the game, prevent them from OTKing you. I think it could be pretty solid. Now Black War Greymon is a tough one. This is like the burning abyss of Digimon. This deck literally won't die no matter how many times you hit it, because Greymon's always going to get support, right? It's a pro tag deck. At this point, not really Black War Grey. It's kind of just like Greymon toolbox. I still think it's really strong. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb saying that with the new support, this deck is tier 1. Now, is it the strongest deck in the format? Probably not. It's still, like, here's the Greymon dilemma. In theory, you beat every deck, but the problem is that you lose to Greymon hands. You lose to drawing all your high-level Digimon. You're not seeing your perfect God stack. You're not seeing your X Antibody, your Hades Force, whatever. There's a lot of setup that needs to be, like, a lot of conditions that need to be met in this deck before you actually, like, do anything, really. But when it gets going, it's really insane. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, like, a low tier 1. Definitely going to be one of the most powerful decks, but as far as representation, we'll see how well it does. Bloomlord is another one. I honestly think this might be a little bit of a sleeper deck. Bloomlord been around since BT10. Hydramon propelled the deck to tier 1 status, I think. And you get a couple of new tools in the form of the training boost as well as the BT14 Mimi that really just increase the deck's consistency, your overall ceiling. You know, Quartzmon, Hydramon, they're still really, really powerful cards. So I'm going to go ahead and put Bloom in tier 1. I think this deck is still performing really, really well into a lot of the meta decks. Bottom decking is still a crazy skill. You're really memory efficient. HPD is still legal. Like, you've got a pretty decent amount of things going for you to where I think Bloom is still going to be really strong. Now, Blue Flare, this is another one that basically since its inception has been good. And then EX4, I think it put it over the edge to give it enough cards to be like that tier 1 status. In terms of BT14, I still think you have a pretty solid matchup into a lot of decks. Lugamon especially, because they flood the board. You can punish them really easily with the Metal Greymon. Just generally really good into purple because you've got access to like the blue mechanic of being able to bounce or bottom deck or whatever. Still really fast, still really aggressive, doesn't lose too many pieces. I don't think really anything on this deck has gotten hit on the list. You still have your Blazing Memory Boost, you still have Sec Attack Greymon. Now, is it tier 1-ish? I'm not sure if I can quite say that, but let's go ahead and put it in high tier 1.5. I still think it's a meta contender for sure. What I mean by 1.5 is these are meta contenders. These are decks that are capable of topping regionals, but they're just not going to take up the biggest chunk of representation, if that makes sense. So Metal Greymon is still a really crazy card. Blue Flare is still a really good archetype. Chaos Dramon or Machine Dramon, a deck very near and dear to my heart. This is one of my favorite decks, and I still think just because Shine exists, this deck can't be tier 1, unfortunately. It has a lot of good matchups, strong into Bloomlord, strong into Blue Flare. Hunters, you know, that one's, you know, can be 50-50, but lots of good matchups. The biggest downside, of course, being your consistency. BT14, I don't think really does anything to solve that, other than maybe a couple more cyborg pieces. But you do get a lot of cool support in later sets. I think BT15 is once you get the Machine Dramon, or the Machine Dramon option card, as well as the new Tamer and the Mega Dramon. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's a little bit further down the line. But Machine Dramon's still really solid. You're going to have to put it in 1.5, though. Hasn't really done too much as far as you know, regionals in the last format. I don't think it's going to continue to do anything crazy, but still pretty capable deck. Royal Knights, I think this is one that surprised a lot of people, myself included. And when I was making my BT13 tier list, I didn't quite think this deck was going to be so competent and so like good. Like it's been performing really well in regionals to where I would probably put this high tier 1.5 just because I think with a Lugamon, especially because that deck is so quick, I don't think you're going to be able to compete with Luga at all. But as far as a lot of the other decks, Royal Knights can still do some pretty cool things. D-Brigade, new addition to the, rather updated addition to the meta. You get Brigade Dramon, you get your whole new Command Dramon line, you get a lot of new options, new Tamer cards as well. So lots of cool things you can do. This deck's glaring fault is that it just doesn't really have any removal for big stacks. You have a lot of wideboard clear, things like the Brigade Dramon, or any of your option cards that kill like 6 cost or less or whatever. But the problem is you can't really deal with big stacks. You can't deal with a Bloomlord or a Black War Grey or even like a Quartzmon or anything like that, let alone like a Machine Dramon stack. So I think because of that and the fact that this deck just auto loses to Death X, I'm going to probably put this in tier 2-ish. I had really big hopes for D-Brigade, but I just don't think it's quite strong enough to be able to do. It doesn't really do anything unfair. It's a very fair deck. I mean, it's consistent, it's memory efficient relatively, but just doesn't really do anything aside from playing other Commandromons on the field, if that makes sense. Dark Knightmon, this is one. This is a deck that has just not done anything, unfortunately. I'm gonna put this in Rogue. I don't think it's quite dog water. Like, in theory, it has a lot of good cards. Like, Nene's cool, being able to give you guys blockers, on deletion, gain 2 memory, Dark Knight, X-Mon, popping Tamers, and recycling back purple pieces is really good. They've got waves of support. BT10 EX4 got more support. It just hasn't done anything. So I'm going to put it in Rogue. Purple Loop, I guess Mill Loop, Lilith with Creepy and all that stuff. This is a deck that has done a decent amount. I think it won. Did it win a regional, or it like got like really high at like a regional in the past couple of months? And basically since EX4, it's been like doing a decent amount, but it's really just like a player here and there. So I would also just put this in Rogue. Not to say it's not a good strategy. It's just like the stars have to align, and your opponent has to not know what you're doing, and you have to like draw all your loot pieces. Diaboromon, we do get new support in the form of Diaboromon Ace in, I think it's like the box toppers, or there's like a promo pack that comes with BT14. Yeah, no, this deck is still just not good, which is unfortunate because Diaboromon's a really cool kind of deck, and it hasn't really done anything since, what, dude, like BT6, right? Since like first Nationals, hasn't done anything. So, I mean, I hope I'm wrong on this. Like, hopefully Diaboromon Ace is just like a broken card and it does enough to just put the deck over the edge. I just don't think that's going to happen. Dorbikmon has been tearing up ulti cups recently, but as far as full-on strategy, I'll put this in Rogue. I don't think it's really doing anything. Same thing with like Leopardmon. This deck is like a really cool concept, but I don't think it's until you get Leopardmon X where it actually becomes viable. And I believe that card's out in EX5, so stay tuned to that tier list. But as far as right now, I think this deck sucks. Like, it has a lot of cool mechanics and cool gimmicks. It's a really fun deck. So if you guys want a green deck that's like not blue mode, that you just want to play at locals or whatever, I would highly recommend Leopardmon because it's a really cool deck. But once we get Leopardmon X, then it'll be solid. Gallantmon, man, this deck, it just keeps getting support, and you would think after all the support, this is literally one of the oldest archetypes in the game. Like, Gallantmon as a deck, like, if you want to like be technical about it, came out in BT2, and it's just still not good. Never has been good, and I don't know why. Like, if you guys like want to give me your opinions as to why you think Gallantmon isn't good, let me know. Because like, my opinion is, I just think it's consistency, and your cards don't do enough. Like, they clear boards, but that's it. It just relies too much on your opponent. But anyways, Gallantmon, we can put this in like, I mean, I don't want, tier 2 is like generous, dude. I'll just put this in Rogue. This deck's pretty bad, so I'll put this in Rogue. Eosmon, I'm not even going to talk about that. Examon, man, this deck was, dude, I haven't seen or heard from an Examon player in a long ass time. Are there any Examon players watching this? Let me know, because this deck's really cool. Evade, being able to support like evade blocking and like DNA digivolving is really cool. But a lot of things this deck does, All Force just does better, but just like quicker. This deck doesn't really have any removal outside of just suspending your opponent's guys and attacking over them. So into any sort of deck that has battle protection or redirection or whatever, I don't know if you're really doing too much. Also, just inconsistent, really clunky. You have to see 2 full lines basically. But I mean, it can do some stuff. Like, it's not a terrible deck. I'll also put this in Rogue. Like, Xmon, I don't think has really done anything since Black War Greymon was dominant like last Nationals. Now here is the deck I think everyone wants to know about, or at least the deck I'm most, I don't know if excited is the word, most cautious of, I guess, is Lugamon. So Lugamon is getting support in BT14, or rather it's becoming a deck, right? You've got your new Tamer AG Nagasumi, you've got Lugamon, you've got Fenrir. Lugamon is one hell of a card, man. If you guys don't know what this card does, basically you summon back 3 Dark Animal / Sons of Chaos Digimon from your trash, which 3 is insane. But I mean, you have to have AG underneath it, but that's not really difficult to do in this deck. So you summon back and go at your guys. AG gives your Lugamon Alliance blocker, so you can swing, and then Lugamon's effect deletes one of your opponent's Digimons to unsuspend it. You check 2 with Alliance, you swing again. There's one of the inheriteds from the level 5s that lets you unsuspend again. You just take out their whole security stack really quickly and spam the board. And if you're not able to finish them off for some reason, you have a bunch of like Alliance blockers on the field. So Lugamon is the tier 1 deck, I think. Like, this is the gatekeeping deck. If you're not able to deal with Lugamon, I think your deck probably doesn't have a place in the format. So guys, keep an eye on Lugamon. It's a really, really crazy deck. Really scary, and probably one of the favorites, I think, to win Nationals as well. All right, so next up, 4 Great Dragons, Dogwater. That deck's not real. Blue Flare. Now, Blue Flare, I guess we kind of talked about already, but, I mean, maybe this is like Dark Knight Blue Flare combination. I'm just gonna put this down here, man. Like, same thing. The Imperial, dude. Imperial Dravon, just no, not that Imperial Dravon. Now, Edamon, unironically, I think has potential. EX5 Edamon, I will say, is actually like really solid. Currently, like it's okay. I'm gonna cope out and put this tier 2. And then we'll come back to this in EX5 and like see how like accurate this is, because for BT14, I mean, you get a couple new pieces, but EX5 I think is when it really takes off. Leomon, not a real deck until EX5 as well. Lord Nightman, that's the deck I haven't even thought about in like a million formats. I mean, do you have access to like Venusmon and like some other cool stuff? I remember in BT 9 or 10, I put together Lord Knight, and it was actually like doing some cool things. You could like swing, play a Nightmon and Evo into Venus, stun your opponent's board, and you also get the yellow-black Nightmon as part of the. It's like the same promo pack as the Diaboromon Ace. That card's really good, but unfortunately, it's a 4 evolve. Is it enough to make Lord Nightmon meta? No, but it's like okay. Let's put this bottom tier 2. Like, this deck is not good by any means, but it's playable. I'll say that it's playable. Mastamon, oh boy. Where do I even begin with this? Man, Mastamon is such a cool deck in concept, but it's just not good, man. I won't put it below Lord Knight. Let's put it above Edamon. I'll at least give you Mastamon players that, but this deck is not good. I don't know why. Merva Cross, this deck it's done some things in the past. Recently, not really, just because Shine's been so dominant in the BT14. I think if you're playing a purple deck, you might as well just play Luga. Like like Merva is just not going to really be doing anything up until EX5 when we get Anubis, but that's a whole other story. So for right now, I'll probably put this tier 2 as well. Now Melga. Okay, so we don't really get too much Melga support up until. Wow, hold on, we've got a lot of actually, because we got the starter decks, we get Melga support, EX5, and then we get BT15. So EX5, BT15, that's a whole nother animal. Even with just the starter deck, though, I'm gonna put this deck tier 1. Like, I honestly think even with just the starter decks, you get the new Gabu, Garuru, you get the Were Garuru, most importantly, a new mat as well. So you get a lot of new, really good options. The new, dude, I don't know what they're thinking with the new purple Warrior Crew. It's literally the same thing as the other card that they put to 1, except it just doesn't have Sec Attack +1. I mean, I get that is a huge, like, that's a huge deal, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I fully believe that, like, the blue Warrior Crew needed to be hit, but the purple one just does basically the same thing, except with 1 less swing. And now you have 4 of that card. So this deck is actually like really, really good. And then Melga Ace being able to evolve for 0, either on your opponent's turn, passing turn, or being able to evolve for 0 on like just like swing, level 5, Warguru Ace unsuspend, swing, and then Melga unsuspend with Melga X. That's like 4 swings already. Like you like cleared the board with the Melga Ace when attacking. You can go like Melga Ace attack, kill something, X anybody, digivolve into Melga BT9, unsuspend, bounce something, you've got a blocker on board. And then if you got like Omni X combo, that's already game. But so Melga, I think, is still really insane. So enough about that. Another blue deck, Mirage Gagumon. It's been doing pretty solid. I would put this like high 1.5. It's just shy of being like a tier 1 deck. It's been tearing up multi-cups, but as far as regionals go, I don't think it's been doing too much. But it's really solid. It's got a lot of things going for it. Gamamon, man, dude, this deck is really fun, man. I want to cope out so hard. I'm gonna put this like low 1.5. I really think DIGIMON is like a pretty competent deck. You've got access to like every keyword in the game. Like having like a raid blitz plus 4,000 sec attack +1 killing something like stack that you can warp into for like 3 memory. It's pretty good. The big thing is just it's really reliant on the tamers, and I mean you've got ways to search them, but like the deck also doesn't really have any security bombs. Even the level 6 is like really good, being able to pop something on suspend, but you've got no protection on your stack. You've got no other really unfair plays, but overall really solid deck. So I'm going to put it low 1.5. Red Hybrid, I mean this deck's still really solid. I'll put this like high 1.5. You still got like being able to do 2-3 checks in a single turn, gaining memory off the new Takuya. Warping is still good, so Red Hybrid still, I mean, still turn it up. Rosemon, this deck sucks. Now maybe when we get to like Rosemon X and like all that stuff, I'll change my mind, but this deck's not real. Tyrannomon also, I think the Tyrannomon Ace is actually a really good card, but as a deck, it's still just like really bad. So I'll for the sake of the Ace card, I'll put it like high dog water tier. Now Shine Greymon, now this is a deck, even in BT14 with Geo Greymon at 1, I still think is really, really good. I genuinely don't think those restrictions did like enough. The Geo Grey hit is good, and the Gabumon hits are, I think the Gabumon hits are kind of pointless. They're fine, but like you need to hit the actual problem cards, which that's a whole separate discussion. Same thing with Shine Greymon. They're hitting Geo Grey, which is good. Like, and honestly hurts Yellow Vaccine more than it does Shine. But they need to just like hit the Marcus or something. But this deck I still think is like tier 1. I still, you've like lost like literally no momentum. You've lost one like really broken like free play tamer outlet, but you still have like 8 other ways to free play tamers. You still have the other Geo Grey, you still have your Rise Greys. Like this deck's still really good. Monzaimon, same thing with Edamon. Like it's like somewhat competent now, but no, this deck's not good. I don't even know why this is on here. Force, now this deck, I think being able to still have access to block or evade, like we were talking about with Examon, being able to bounce stuff, but all just doing it more efficiently, doing it more quickly. This deck has a lot of cycle. I won a regional somewhat recently, and it's been doing pretty well in multi-cups. Now, with BT14, I think you have a lot more to contend with now. Not only do you have the decks from the last couple formats, but now you also have Melga, which arguably is just All Force but better, and then you've also got Fenrir Lugamon to deal with, which, I mean, All Force being able to bounce their stacks to avoid undulation is really good, but what do you do when you're staring down like 4 Digimon and you're at like 1 security? So I'd probably also put All Force at like a 1.5-ish category, pretty similar to Mirage. I don't know if it's going to be doing too much, but I do think it's still a pretty solid pick overall. Wargrey. Now, Red Wargrey, rather than just like Greymon Toolbox, like Wargrey X and stuff, I'm going to put in 1.5. This Warp card is really solid, but I don't think it does enough to make like pure Red Wargrey OTK like good. I think you're definitely still playing the control game. I think you're definitely playing a toolboxy, like more grindy deck. Crossheart, now this is still a pretty solid deck. Like you still have really good like combo pieces. You still have really good finishers in the form of your big Crossheart Megazords, your Cross 7 Superior mode, still really good removal card. But I don't know if you can really contend with a lot of the other decks. Like Shine just OTKs your opponent more efficiently. Bloomlord, Hydra Axis, Quartz Axis just annihilates you. I think it, like a lot of these 1.5 decks I think would be tier 1 if it wasn't for the gatekeeping going on from the tier 1 decks, if that makes sense. Royal Alliance we already kind of talked about. I guess I'm just going to put this with the Craniumon there. And then Zudomon, I guess Source Strip. Let's call this Blue Hybrid, because we haven't really talked about Blue Hybrid recently. Just because it got unbanned, you know, Tommy's at 4. It's pretty okay. Like, it's not bad. It still does some unfair things. Tommy's still obnoxious, but it just somehow seems less broken than it was before. Probably just because there's a lot of outplay. There's tamer removal now. There's DNA digivolving. There's just a lot of ways to either get around it, or you know, you just don't care. Maybe you're just killing your opponent. Like Shine Greymon, for example, the Marcuses, I mean, you can just dodge being frozen because you're no longer a Digimon on your opponent's turn, and you just wear down their security. So I'm gonna probably put this in tier 2-ish. It's okay. I just don't think it's gonna be doing anything crazy. But anyways, guys, that's going to be the video for the BT14 tier list. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and if you want to see more content like this. So we're going to probably be hitting the BT14 grind pretty soon. Look forward to gameplay, deck list, ruling videos, all that sort of thing. But anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.